Happening now, a Mayville man has pled guilty in connection to a fatal hit-and-run incident. And we look at a new sculpture park coming to Chautauqua County. Plus, we unveil our newest segment here at WNY News Now, The Veteran's Voice.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
Thank you for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Bronson Rasmussen. Those stories and more are coming up, but first, a Mayville man has pleaded guilty for his role in a fatal hit-and-run accident over 1 year ago. Erie County District Attorney John Flynn announced that on Thursday, 38-year-old Nicholas J. Rosato, also known as Nicholas J. Boaz of Mayville, pled guilty to one count of leaving the scene of an incident resulting in death. On Thursday, July 7, 2022, Rosato was driving a pickup truck northwest of Abbott Road in the city of Buffalo, where he hit a bicyclist near Kenneth Avenue. Police say that Rosato then left the scene without reporting the incident. The bicyclist, 27-year-old Theodore Dion of West Seneca, died from the injuries. Now sentencing for Rosato is scheduled for Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. A Jamestown resident has been sentenced to 9 years in prison for weapons charges. The sentencing stems from the execution of a search warrant by the Jamestown Police Department on June 15, 2022, during which Cunningham was arrested and charged with criminal possession of a controlled substance in the third degree and the weapons offense. The drug charge was covered as part of his plea agreement after pleading guilty to the weapons charge on June 13, 2023. In addition to the recent charges, Cunningham was sentenced in December 2022 on a violation of probation for a previous felony conviction, receiving an 8-year sentence with 5 years of post-release supervision to be served concurrently. Now this marks his second felony conviction in Chautauqua County within 10 years, categorizing him as a second felony offender. In other news, a workshop on pedestrian and bicycle safety will be held at the James Pendergast Library Tuesday night. The Jamestown Department of Development, in conjunction with Go Bike Buffalo, will host a meeting to discuss the information and recommendations regarding safety on Jamestown streets. There will also be discussions on pedestrian infrastructure between the library and Dow Park. Previously, the Director of Development, Crystal Sertit, told us that the plans for a new and creative crosswalk would be brought to the light at this meeting. Now this is all possible due to the grant awarded to the city from Chautauqua County Partnership for Economic Growth for small-scale complete streets projects. The workshop will meet at the library starting at 5 p.m. and run until 8 p.m. While Sculpture Park in Kennedy is currently under development, decorating the woods with metallic artwork of all shapes and sizes, Deanna Curry is the mastermind behind Wonderland in Kennedy, a project that takes inspiration from her mother's imagination, scrap metal, and a welder. Arlissa Wright has more.
And then she taught herself to weld, and she started with the sculptures and inspired me, and that's what really, I just loved it. I just thought it was one of the most amazing things. She does tons of different crafts. She's the most creative person, and it started here, and it just kind of progressed. So I said, let's share it with the public. Let's do a sculpture park. So I quit my job and started all this, and this is the dream.
The exact number of pieces is unknown, but it's estimated that the number is well past 100.
We've never counted. Never counted. Somebody asked me that the other day. Hundreds, I would imagine, because there's a lot of little stuff and there's big stuff. It's quite a combination.
The metal used in creating these sculptures is purely scrap metal, and most goes unchanged.
Everything we use is upcycled metal. We don't cut anything out of the plasma cutters and everything. There is a couple pieces that are like that, but for the most part, it's all upcycled.
The goal of Wonderland is to bring appreciation to not just art, but nature as well.
Placing all this stuff, we're trying to keep nature. You know what I mean? Not get too involved in taking over. I want to keep it as natural as possible so that, you know, people still get to enjoy the real nature of everything walking through the woods. It's not going to be so over prepped and cleaned that you don't know you're in the woods, you know?
The Wonderland Sculpture Park is hoping to see a grand opening next spring and eventually house more local artists, trails to walk, and even live music. The park is heavily relying on community donations, and those interested in assisting the park can donate to their GoFundMe. Alyssa Wright, WNY News Now.
To learn more about Wonderland Sculpture Park, you can also visit their Facebook page, Wonderland Sculpture Park. Well, remember that still at WNY News Now, we are raffling off these tickets for the Tarp Skunks. Now you can find out how to enter on our website and Facebook page at WNY News Now. While switching gears a little bit, we'll get a check of our first weather forecast with Chief Forecaster Andrew Stevenson.
We'll start off with a live look at first defense Doppler radar. Similar to the past few days, most of the region is going to be dry today, but we do have some showers and thunderstorms, which have mainly been across the portions of northern Erie County as well as Niagara County. That's where they've been these past few days, and it looks like for the most part, that's where most of the showers and thunderstorms are going to be found today, but we could see a couple pop-up showers and thunderstorms across inland locations this afternoon, mainly away from Lake Erie. Let's talk about the dew points, because the dew points are on their way up still today, not too terribly bad. Dew points today will be found in the lower 60s, so a little bit humid. Same thing for tomorrow, but heading into Thursday and Friday, those dew points will really spike up, and Thursday into Friday will be in the borderline oppressive category as dew points spike into the upper 60s to the lower 70s. But a cold front's going to move through the region on Friday. We go back down into the humid category on Saturday, and if I could extend this out a little farther, we'll be back down into the pleasant and refreshing categories heading into Sunday and in early next week. So it's going to get a little warm over these next few days. The almanac for today, we made it to a high of 78 degrees yesterday in the city of Jamestown. Our low was 58, so our high yesterday just a couple of ticks below average, and we were right at the average low for this time of year. Our records for today, 96 is the record high, set back in 1934, and the record low of 40 set back in 1985. So here's your first defense weather forecast through the rest of the afternoon out there. Generally the same thing as it has been these past few days. Partly cloudy skies for most of the region. A few afternoon scattered showers or thunderstorms will be possible, mainly across inland locations. Any of those pop-up storms could contain some heavy rain and some gusty winds briefly. Highs today will range once again from the upper 70s at the Lake Erie shoreline to the low to mid 80s across inland locations. I'll let you know how warm it's going to get over the next few days, and we have some more strong to severe thunderstorms potentially in our near future. I'll talk about it coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. As WNY News Now continues, we hear from New York investigators who are expanding their search of a suspected serial killer's home. And later, our newest segment here at WNY News Now, The Veteran's Voice. Stay with us, as WNY News Now will be right back.
Catch your first defense forecast daily on WNY News Now.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
3-on-3 basketball returns to Jamestown, New York this summer. Collaborative Children's Solutions and partners are hosting a Gus Macker tournament August 19th and 20th. Register online at macker.com before July 31st.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Authorities in New York are continuing their investigation of serial killing suspect Rex Heuermann. Now they expanded the search from his home to the backyard using ground-penetrating radar and a backhoe. Now Heuermann's DNA has been entered into CODIS, which could tie him to the unsolved cases in other states. Krista McCanley reports.
Has the search been fruitful? great question, and the answer is yes.
The Suffolk Police Commissioner tells us that they have taken several items out of the First Avenue home, and the backyard is being searched at this time. He says there was nothing that prompted the search specifically.
We're just doing a total investigation around the house to see if there's anything back there that we need to take a closer look at.
Not much has been revealed about the inside of the home. What we do know is that in the basement there was a walk-in vault sealed by an iron door, where Rex Hewerman stored about 200 guns, according to the commissioner.
A bunch of years ago, I seen a bunch of guys carrying this incredibly heavy object in there, and I said, "Wow, that's heavy, Rex." And he told me it was an iron door for the basement.
Neighbors walking near the home on Monday have a lot of questions about Hewerman and the 3 murders he is accused of committing.
Oh, I want to know what happened, you know what I mean? Is there dead bodies in this guy's backyard? Is this where, I have no idea, you know?
It's amazing how something like that can go on for so long and nobody really having any clue.
Several sources have confirmed to News 12 that investigators believe 1 or more of the suspected murders may have happened at Hewerman's home. The police commissioner would not comment on that, but did say they will continue investigating even long after law enforcement leaves the Massapequa Park property.
We'll keep the task force together, we'll keep it intact, and we'll see if there's any other victims over on Ocean Parkway or anywhere else throughout Long Island.
A victim of a former Columbia University gynecologist accused of sexually abusing his patients is sharing her story. Dr. Robert Hayden was sentenced to 20 years in prison after he was convicted in January of sexually abusing 4 patients. Prosecutors say one of his victims was a minor and 2 were pregnant. Federal prosecutors believe that they were among dozens of female patients, including several minors. They say Hayden abused while pretending to be medically examining them between 1993 and 2012.
I was naked in a room with a man in a paper gown, and I didn't know how to get out of there. And I had to find a way out without being harmed physically any more than I was.
The court could still hear from Hayden during the proceedings. The judge is still mulling over a request from his attorneys to have his client speak when court resumes today. Well, there's a National Wine Day and a National Cheese Day, but today marks National Wine and Cheese Day. Well, that means it's time to celebrate how these two pair with one another. Regions that produce wine tend to pair those wines with local cheeses, but sommeliers and cheesemongers, yes, that's what they're actually called, can make recommendations based on complementary flavors and new trends. There's no real wrong way to pair the two, so you can always experiment and see what appeals to you. And if you don't drink wine already, don't start now. You can also pair cheese with a sparkling juice or other beverages. And now we bring you a new segment to WNY News Now called The Veteran's Voice, where we hear from Department of Veterans Affairs on malfeasance across the country. And for today's segment, a Missouri man pled guilty for stealing over $340,000 from his grandmother's veteran survivor benefits for 30 years after her death. 67-year-old Jeffrey Tyler waived his rights and pled guilty to the theft of government property. Tyler admitted to spending $340,934 in veteran survivor benefits from his grandmother's bank account and on his own expenses. His grandmother had received the benefits from her husband's military service. Now, she died on November 26, 1993, but the benefits continued to be deposited into her account, receiving $1,110 a month, totaling $13,320 a year. Bank records show the money was spent on Tyler's personal expenses, including hundreds of signed checks for water and electric bills. The total amount of benefits converted by Taylor totaled approximately $338,316. Under the terms of the plea agreement, Tyler must pay $340,934 in restitution to the government. Now, under federal statutes, Tyler is subject to a sentence of up to 10 years in federal prison without parole. A sentence hearing will be scheduled after the investigation by the United States Probation Office. Well, coming up, we look at Texas, where multiple measures have been put in place to stop those that would cross the border. And later, we have the latest in a trial against a police officer who left a woman in front of a freight train. But first, we return with a look at our full weather forecast.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
WNY News Now is covering stories that matter to you.
15-year-old Yadiel Diaz was subject to a public humiliation stunt by a fellow student in an act of violence and bullying. Now Yadiel's mother, Raquel, has had enough.
Officials are trying to work with the county's homeless coalition to help support the homeless population locally. There are also plans in the works to build 2 new shelters.
WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Right here, baby. Look. Uma.
Something more than a birthday is happening here. Once you can see it, you can help. The sooner you recognize the signs of autism, the sooner you can make a lifetime of difference for your child. Start by answering a few simple questions at screenforautism.org.
3-on-3 basketball returns to Jamestown, New York this summer. Collaborative Children's Solutions and partners are hosting a Gus Macker tournament August 19th and 20th. Register online on macker.com before July 31st.
Catch your First Defense forecast daily on WNY News Now.
Welcome back to WNY News Now. Currently in downtown Jamestown, we're under partly sunny skies. 70 degrees is the current temperature at the Jamestown Airport with a south wind of 7 miles per hour, and the dew point is currently at 64. Well, let's talk about the storm outlook for tomorrow. The NOAA Storm Prediction Center has placed far western New York as well as portions of northwestern Pennsylvania and Erie and Crawford County under a marginal risk for severe storms. Now, tomorrow will be dry. It's not tomorrow we're worried about. It's tomorrow evening into the overnight hours when a system will be crossing the region. You actually see it here on Future Look in just a minute. It's going to bring some showers and storms to the region, and a few of those storms could be on the stronger side. Well, just off to our west, the NOAA Storm Prediction Center has portions of Ohio, Indiana, Michigan under an enhanced risk and a slight risk of storms. So there's a possibility this might be extended far into our region, depending on what future model runs look like. Our region could be even put into a slight risk, but again, that all depends on what the future model runs looks like. Here, what's happening across the northeast right now. We kind of got a ridge of high pressure to our south that's going to keep most of the region dry. A weak boundary is actually providing the showers and thunderstorms up across Niagara County. Will also be the culprit for any afternoon showers and storms across inland locations later this afternoon, and then that system's going to move through later tomorrow night and into early Thursday, and then we're going to get into a cold front on Friday that's going to bring more showers and storms. So let's kind of time it out. Through future scan for the rest of the afternoon, partly cloudy skies. Again, can't rule out an afternoon shower or thunderstorm. You see it here on future scan, and those showers and storms should come to an end in the evening hours, and then we should go partly cloudy to mainly clear skies overnight tonight. And as I said, most of the day tomorrow will be dry, partly sunny skies through much of the day, and then you see it here on future scan around 11 p.m. to midnight tomorrow night is when that round of showers and thunderstorms will move across the region. So if you go to bed early, these storms might wake you up, and we'll have to keep an eye on if any of these storms will be on the stronger side. That will move through overnight, and then Thursday have a few showers in the afternoon, and the rest of the afternoon should be dry, and then eventually a cold front's going to move through the region on Friday. Now here's that 7-day outlook powered by Ultimate Satellite Solutions. So temperatures today near 80 to the lower 80s. We'll go into the mid 80s tomorrow and Thursday. And Friday, out ahead of that cold front, temperatures are really going to spike up there into the upper 80s. Thursday and Friday, inland locations could make it into the lower 90s. Together with those dew points, it's going to be feeling quite uncomfortable out there. But then that cold front moves through, and we should drop back down into upper 70s to the lower 80s heading into Saturday and Sunday. And then eventually by early next week, temperatures are going to drop down into the lower 70s. So we go well above average on Friday to below average on Monday. And overnight lows will actually drop down as well next week into the lower 50s after being in the upper 60s for overnight lows Thursday and Friday.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. And be sure to stay connected on our mobile app at the Apple App Store and Google Play Store for any severe weather that might be coming our way later this week. And now for some headlines from across the nation. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is defying the Department of Justice, vowing to keep a controversial river barrier as part of an ongoing effort to deter immigration at the Texas-Mexico border. The Department of Justice says Texas is violating federal law prohibiting the creation of any obstruction in the waters of the United States. Now, Texas says it's simply protecting its borders. Gloria Pazamino has the details.
A showdown at the Texas border is headed to court. Faced with legal action, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said Monday he will not order these floating barriers to be removed from the Rio Grande. In a letter sent to President Joe Biden, Abbott said Texas will fully utilize its constitutional authority to deal with the crisis you have caused. Texas will see you in court, Mr. President, Abbott wrote. The Justice Department said last week it plans to file legal action against Texas following the installation of floating barriers in the Rio Grande as part of its operation to deter illegal immigration along the Texas-Mexico border.
We're securing the border at the border.
Abbott has also installed concertina wire and shipping containers. The 1,000-foot-long floating barrier and netting along the water has been criticized by lawmakers and advocates who say it poses a drowning risk to migrants.
For the governor to have already ordered razor wire to be placed in the water to denying people in 105, 110 degree heat any water is just extremely cruel and barbaric.
The Texas Department of Public Safety has acknowledged there's been an increase in migrant injuries from concertina wire, but it denies a whistleblower report which claimed officials were told to push migrants back into the river and to deny them water. Meanwhile, caught in the middle, hundreds of migrants who continue to try to cross despite Abbott's measures. I'm Gloria Pasmino reporting.
Now, the White House responded to Abbott's decision to continue using the floating marine barriers on the Rio Grande River, calling his actions as dangerous and unlawful. In other news, a Nebraska teen is headed to jail for burying a fetus after an illegal abortion. 19-year-old Celeste Burgess was charged with one count of removing, concealing, or abandoning a dead body. Investigators say last year, Burgess and her mother illegally aborted Celeste's pregnancy and then burned and buried the fetus in rural Madison County. The fetus was estimated to be 30 weeks into the pregnancy, about 6 weeks after it is considered to be viable outside the womb. The mother pleaded guilty to 2 felonies and a misdemeanor earlier this month. She'll be sentenced in September. Now, Burgess fessed up to 2 years in prison, but the charges were reduced following her guilty plea. She's currently sentenced to 90 days in jail and 2 years of probation. A Colorado police officer accused of putting a handcuffed woman in a parked police car that was then hit by a freight train did not know the car was parked on the tracks. Well, at least that's what the officer's lawyer said in court Monday. While evidence will show Officer Jordan Stanke stood on the railroad tracks during a night traffic stop in September of 2022, she did not know that an officer she was assisting had parked his patrol car on the tracks. Now, the woman inside, Yarani Rios Gonzalez, suffered extensive injuries, including a traumatic brain injury. Lawyers accused that the tracks were completely flush with the road, nothing to trip over, and there were no illuminated crossing signs or gates at the railroad crossing in the rural area. Just 2 reflective signs on either side of the track. Others noted that the officer had walked across the train tracks several times during the incident, including when she escorted Rios Gonzalez to the patrol car after arresting her. Now there is no jury for this trial, which is set to end on Friday. Well, coming up next, we look at the tolls heat is taking on the country.
You're watching WNY News Now, your source for breaking news.
3-on-3 basketball returns to Jamestown, New York this summer. Collaborative Children's Solutions and partners are hosting a Gus Macker tournament August 19th and 20th. Register online at macker.com before July 31st.
You are loved. You are valued. You are resilient. You got this.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear, because for years he's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But there's a lot more to say. Like, if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Tens of millions of people across the United States are under heat alerts, with some cities recording temperatures of more than 100 degrees, and thousands of heat records tied or broken during the past 30 days. Caroline Cummings has more on how to stay safe.
Hennepin EMS first responders are always ready for an emergency. But dangerous heat in the next few days could mean more calls for help.
I think we're certainly more attuned to looking for those signs of heat illness and thinking about it more often.
Dr. Nicholas Simpson, emergency physician and chief medical director for Hennepin EMS, says a summer marked by poor air quality and this extreme heat together make things more challenging.
Those things together are making it really hard, I think, for some folks outside.
Watch out for dehydration and muscle cramps. Heat exhaustion can escalate to heat stroke, which is the most dangerous. Simpson says if someone is confused and mentally disoriented, that's a sign of heat stroke and you should call 911 right away.
I think in both situations, whether you have pre-existing conditions or not, I think it's really important that you pay attention to your body and how you feel.
Experts like him say limit your time in the direct sun and drink lots of water. Better yet, stay inside if you can. But cranking the AC to stay cool can mean big electric bills.
It's about 50% of your bill throughout the summer. So, trying to use it and use it sparingly is smart.
Xcel Energy, Minnesota's largest utility, recommends consumer tips like running your dishwasher and washing machine at night when the heat outside has subsided to keep your house cooler, and drawing the shades on your windows. And just cleaning your AC unit can make it run more efficiently.
We're prepared for these summer events and are prepared for these intense digits and the strain that we'll see.
Now, Andrew, I did see a report earlier that I think as of a month ago, there were already 15 related deaths according to heat. Now, many tragedies have occurred since this massive heat wave has rolled into the U.S., including 2 hikers that have been found dead in an Arizona woman had died after her power was cut over a $51 debt. It's crazy to see how this warm heat is actually taking toll on people.
I mean, the good news, at least for our region, is after that cold front moves through on Friday, we'll cool off heading into the weekend and next week. But the south and way out west are going to be continuing to deal with this heat for, looks like, the foreseeable future.
Definitely. Well, that's it for us today. Be sure to go to our website and figure out how to win these tickets that we draw tomorrow. We'll leave you with this live look over Olean.